So theme is kind of a vague term. In fact, it's a really vague term. And the reason why is because usually people give like a one-word answer, like friendship or war or death, but that's not very useful for storytelling. It has to be something you can prove. So there's a term that I like to use that is actually taken from Brian McDonald. He calls theme armature. Physically, what an armature is. When you're making a claymation character, you need to make a skeleton for it, and that's called an armature. So it's the skeleton of the creature you're making. Without one, it'll fall apart. If you don't know what the skeleton is, you don't know what you're making. For storytelling, armature is a one-sentence statement that you're trying to prove.
Guess it comes down to a simple choice, really. Get busy living, or get busy dying.
Hitchcock broke down 3-act structure into proposal, argument, and conclusion. It's just like an essay. You have your thesis, the armature, and then in the middle of the essay, this is where your argument's gonna be. And then the conclusion, you say the armature again. But the difference with the story is you've dramatized it. You've actually taken the character through this journey, and by the time they get to the conclusion, they've proved that statement. Examples of armatures. The Princess Bride, true love overcomes all.
Drunk.
Finding Nemo, don't hold your kids so tightly that they can't have experiences of their own.
You think you can do these things, but you just can't, Nemo!
I hate you.
It's a Wonderful Life. It's a Wonderful Life. No, life is better for having you in it. A Knight's Tale, a man can change his stars.
It's all I can do for you, son. Now go, change your stars and live a better life than I have.
So once you know your armature, once you know what you're trying to prove, write it down. It's got to be something meaningful to you, something that you actually believe. If it's not something you believe, then there's no way you're going to sell the audience on it, because you're not sold on it. Okay, now I'm going to take you through an example of how you dramatize an armature, how you actually play it out in your movie. So for Finding Nemo, the armature of this movie is don't hold your kids so tightly that they can't have experiences of their own. Okay, this entire movie, there's examples of other characters that are different kinds of parents than Marlin is. Marlin, he starts out very controlling because he's trying to keep anything from happening to Nemo. And this is dramatized throughout the movie. There's parental figures throughout. First of all, when Nemo gets to the tank, he meets Gil.
Dad! Daddy! Help me!
Nobody touch him!
Nobody touch him.
He's to show the contrast for Marlin of he's a father that actually lets his kids take risks.
Just think about what you need to do.
Come on.
Perfect.
So then the other character for Marlin is Crush, the turtle.
So, Mr. Turtle.
Whoa, dude, Mr. Turtle is my father. Name's Crush.
Crush? Really?
They use this to demonstrate another way of parenting. It's similar to Gil. Marlin meets Crush going through the East Australian current.
Righteous!
Crush has a different philosophy of parenting. They're all going through this thing and he's got all the kids separate. They're not like right next to him. And one of the kids goes out of the current and Marlin freaks out.
Whoa, kill the motor, dude. Let us see what Squirt does flying solo.
That was so cool! Did you see what I did?
You so totally rock, Squirt!
A good way to look at this is it's like the 3 ghosts in A Christmas Carol. It's a good number for storytelling, but it doesn't have to be exactly 3. But you have these obstacles or encounters that he has that challenges his way of thinking. So for Marlin, it's his overprotective parenting. He encounters these different characters that take risks and that trust their children that they'll figure out how to do it.
Sharkbait, you did it!
And near the end, Marlin is talking to Dory. Marlin says,
I promised him I'd never let anything happen to him.
That's a funny thing to promise.
What?
Well, you can't never let anything happen to him. Then nothing would ever happen to him.
So after that conversation with Dory, Nemo comes back, and this would be a very easy place for Marlin to just go home with Nemo, and he'd just go back to his old ways. But in comes the third act crisis of the fishing boat starts scooping up Dory, and Nemo starts swimming into the net.
Dad, I know what to do!
Marlin, of course, being the character he is, he grabs Nemo's fin, and he doesn't want to let him go. And then Nemo's like, I know how to do this. You need to let me do it.
I can do this!
Then he finally lets go of Nemo's fin, and that's the end of his arc. And he swims into the net, and he lets him do his own thing. That's how you dramatize your armature, how you play it out. Once you know your armature, you know what your story is, and maybe even more important, you know what your story is not. All these million things it could be, it's not those. It makes it so much easier to write your story. It's not about hitting the audience over the head. It's not about proving a point just to prove yourself right. It's about clarity. Once you know your armature, you know how to tell your story.
Dad, you can let go now.
Sorry. Now go have an adventure. Bye, son.